President Trump, reading off a teleprompter, said this when speaking out against the mass shootings at the White House yesterday.
The shooter in El Paso posted a manifesto online consumed by racist hate. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. These sinister ideologies must be defeated. Hate has no place in America. Hatred warps the mind, ravages the heart, and devours the soul.
Yet Tucker Carlson of Fox News is saying white supremacy is not a real problem in America. I wonder how the families of the victims in El Paso feel about his statement. I want to talk about this now. Juliette Kayyem is here. Nate Snyder is here as well. Good evening to both of you. Juliette, you know, we have some new details to get to, but first I just want to get your response to what Tucker Carlson said about white supremacy in this country, that it's a hoax.
Right. I mean, generally racists hate being called racist, and they hate that their ideology that they promote on a primetime show promotes violence. And it's clear, this is what we've all been talking about, the atmospherics, the community that is built by Trump and his, and host on Fox, at least primetime Fox, is one that gives white supremacy and racism and violence a sense of comfort and community, a sense that they are not shamed. It's a come hither. It's a flirtation that's being done by people like Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump that makes it sort of, I call it, that it makes it hard to call it out because, they can feign outrage if you say, wait, you're a racist. What you're doing is actually promoting, white supremacy. They can sort of feign all of this outrage, as you saw today with Tucker Carlson. It's a playbook used by people like this to promote white supremacy with a wink and a nod, not saying they condone the violence, but boy, they don't say much about it until after there's a shooting.
It's just amazing that people are watching it and maybe they believe it, I don't know. But listen, I want to bring you in here, Mr. Snyder, because I'm just going to give just quickly. FBI assessment released last year found that there was a 17% spike in reports of hate crime incidents between 2017 compared to 2016. The Southern Poverty Law Center says there's a dramatic increase in the number of white nationalist groups in the U.S. from 100 chapters in 2017 to 148. And then it just goes on to talk about 73.3% of U.S. Of extremist-related murders in the past decade were committed by right-wing extremists. And there are other numbers in here that go along with what the FBI director was saying. To hear someone say that, to promote that on a national news channel is just astounding.
It is astounding. It's unconscionable. Just one thing that I think will go directly into what your previous guest mentioned and also what Juliette talked about, as well as something we say within the counterterrorism community. It's something that I actually worked with Juliette on while we were at DHS, is that words and narratives matter. They have consequences. And there's a great op-ed in the Washington Post by Latino leaders, many who were in the past administration, including myself, that essentially say the domestic terrorist tropes that this president is citing and lobbying at the Latino community is inspiring attacks. It's inspiring violence. And I think I also take this quite personally. One, being Latino myself, also being an immigrant. I also happen to be a former counterterrorism official at DHS. I also swore an oath, like the president, to defend and protect this country. And I think by speaking out, many are, we're working to push back. But this rhetoric has consequences, especially when it's validating and providing comfort for these domestic terrorist groups who are looking for that validation for action.
Okay, so I'm glad we have the Fox out there. So let's, Juliette, I want to talk about this new video that CNN obtained exclusively. It's of a Dayton shooter entering a local bar around 11:09 p.m. Eastern with two people. One appears to be his sister, the other identified as an acquaintance who ended up wounded in the shooting. About an hour later, the gunman is seen pausing by the entrance, speaking to staff, and then leaves. Does anything stand out to you here as you look at this?
Well, I mean, the thing that I think we're all, or what I know that investigators will be looking at is sort of what was that last interaction between the three of them? How did potentially a family fight or a sibling issue become a mass murder as we're seeing? And was any of it triggered by some ideology held by the gunman? We're hearing lots of stuff about things that he posted and retweeted. We just don't know yet. And I just want to be clear here. El Paso is clearly a white supremacist. We don't know what this case is, and so we can separate them. We have the capacity to do that. And so that's what I would look at as an investigator. And then also it seems, just in terms of the timing, that he brought this weaponry and all this gear with him, unless he had time to go back and load the car. And so you're just looking at what was his state of mind going into that. I've also been saying I'm just sort of curious about the relationship between the sister and her companion. How did the brother feel about that? Who was he? Those are the questions I would be asking at this stage. But a family squabble often turns violent. It does not often turn into a mass murder like this, not regularly. And so that's the triggering thing I would look at as an investigator.
So, Nate, here's the FBI Director Christopher Wray testifying about domestic terrorism last month. Watch this.
We, the FBI, don't investigate ideology, no matter how repugnant. We investigate violence. And any extremist ideology, when it turns to violence, we're all over it.
So now the FBI has 2 domestic terror investigations where ideology has turned violent. How does the FBI handle a mass shooters manifesto like in El Paso and Gilroy when it echoes the president's ideology?
Well, I think, to be clear, when the FBI or when the intelligence community see imminent threat or gain intelligence or information of a trend that is imminent, by the time that happens and they learn about it, frankly, it's too late. And so the FBI is very good at responding. They do great investigative work. They have great analysts and intervene when necessary. They're the best in the world. However, what we're seeing with this is a lot needs to be done in the prevention space. And frankly, that has been atrophied. It has been neglected under this administration. And the offices and government entities that focus on this type of preventative work have been stymied. So the FBI will continue what they're doing. But frankly, by the time they hear those and see those kinds of signals, it's too late to act.
Nate, Juliette, thank you so much. Appreciate it.